The rain drummed against the windows of the downtown Portland coffee shop where Zara Blackwell sat hunched over her laptop, the familiar weight of inadequacy pressing down on her shoulders like a heavy coat she couldn't take off. The aroma of freshly ground coffee beans mixed with the earthy scent of Oregon's perpetual drizzle created a cocoon of comfort she desperately needed after the morning's phone call with her sister. "You know you don't really have the profile of a maid of honor, Zara." Scarlett's voice had been casual, almost dismissive, as if she were commenting on the weather rather than delivering a blow that would echo in Zara's mind for hours. "I mean, you're great and all, but Bethany just fits the vibe better. She's more photogenic for the wedding shots." Zara's fingers trembled as she replayed the conversation, her coffee growing cold while the cursor blinked mockingly on her blank document. As a freelance graphic designer, she was used to creative blocks, but this felt different, like something fundamental inside her had shifted, leaving her questioning everything she thought she knew about herself. The bell above the cafe door chimed, and Zara looked up to see Nova Martinez pushing through the entrance, her vibrant purple hair dotted with raindrops and her vintage leather jacket gleaming under the warm lights. Nova had been Zara's anchor since college, the kind of friend who could read her moods from across a room. "Okay, spill," Nova said, sliding into the chair across from Zara without preamble. "Your text sounded like you were about to burn down half of Portland." Zara attempted a laugh, but it came out hollow. "Scarlett called this morning. About the wedding." "Ah." Nova's expression darkened. "What did Princess Perfect do now?" She said I don't have the profile of a maid of honor." The words tasted bitter in Zara's mouth. Apparently, Bethany from her yoga class is a better fit for the aesthetic she's going for. Nova's jaw clenched. "Are you kidding me? You're her sister." "Half-sister," Zara corrected automatically, the distinction that Scarlett had never let her forget. "And she's not wrong, is she? Look at me, Nova. I'm the one who hides behind baggy sweaters and hasn't been to a gym in 2 years. Scarlett's got that effortless beauty thing down. She looks like she stepped off a magazine cover even when she's hungover." The cafe around them buzzed with the typical Portland crowd, hipsters with perfectly messy buns, tech workers tapping away on MacBooks, artists sketching in notebooks. Zara had always felt at home in this creative chaos, but today she felt invisible, like she was watching life happen from behind frosted glass. "You know what your problem is." Nova leaned forward, her dark eyes intense. "You've been letting Scarlett define you for so long that you've forgotten who you actually are." "Maybe she's just being honest," Zara whispered, staring into her coffee cup. "Maybe I really don't fit into her perfect wedding vision." Nova was quiet for a moment, then pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Phoenix." "What?" "No." Zara reached across the table, but Nova was already dialing. "Phoenix Chen? It's Nova Martinez, Zara's friend." "Yeah, the one with the purple hair. Listen, I need to talk to you about something important." Zara felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. Phoenix Chen was Scarlett's fiancé, a rising star in the Portland fashion scene known for his innovative designs that blended traditional Asian aesthetics with modern American streetwear. He was talented, successful, and completely out of Zara's league, which made the whole situation even more mortifying. "He wants to meet with you," Nova said after hanging up. "Tomorrow at his studio." "Nova, no. This is humiliating enough without involving him. Trust me on this, Z. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who see us least clearly." That evening, Zara sat in her small apartment in the Alberta Arts District, surrounded by her own artwork, quirky illustrations and bold graphic designs that local businesses commissioned for everything from restaurant menus to album covers. Her work was good, she knew that much. It was distinctive, full of personality, and clients kept coming back. So why did Scarlett's words make her feel like she was worth nothing? Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother, Diane. "Heard about the maid of honor situation. Don't take it personally, sweetheart. You know how Scarlett gets about these things. Don't take it personally." How was she supposed to do that when it felt like the most personal attack imaginable? Zara had spent her entire life trying to earn her place in the Blackwell family. Her father had married Diane when Scarlett was only 2, and while he'd always treated Zara like his own daughter, there was an invisible line that seemed to separate her from Scarlett's effortless belonging. The rain continued its steady percussion against her windows, and Zara found herself sketching without thinking, her pencil moving across the paper in smooth, confident strokes. When she looked down, she'd drawn a woman in an elaborate dress, her face turned away but her posture proud and strong. Something about the figure felt familiar, like a version of herself she'd never had the courage to become. Her phone rang, startling her from her thoughts. Scarlett's name flashed on the screen. "Hey," Zara answered, trying to keep her voice neutral. "Listen, I've been thinking about our conversation this morning," Scarlett said, her tone slightly softer than usual. "I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. It's just, this wedding is really important to me, and I want everything to be perfect." "I know," Zara replied, though the words still stung. "Phoenix suggested something though. He wants to design your dress. For the wedding, I mean. As a bridesmaid or whatever role you end up with. He says he has some ideas that would be really flattering on you." Zara's grip tightened on the phone. The idea of Phoenix, with his impeccable taste and artistic vision, trying to make her look presentable felt both thrilling and terrifying. "You don't have to do that. I can find something at the mall." "No, really." He seemed excited about it. "Said something about bringing out your natural beauty or whatever." Scarlett's voice carried a note of confusion, as if the concept of Zara having natural beauty was foreign to her. After they hung up, Zara stared at her reflection in the dark window, seeing not the confident woman from her sketch but the same insecure person who'd been living in her sister's shadow for 28 years. Tomorrow, she would meet with Phoenix Chen and probably embarrass herself thoroughly. But maybe, just maybe, Nova was right. Maybe it was time to stop letting other people decide who she was supposed to be. The rain finally began to slow, and through the clearing clouds, Zara could see the lights of Portland spread out below her apartment like stars that had fallen to earth. Somewhere in that glittering expanse was Phoenix's studio, where tomorrow she would either find a new version of herself or confirm once and for all that she really wasn't the kind of person who belonged in the spotlight. Either way, she was tired of hiding. Phoenix Chen's studio occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse in Portland's Pearl District, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the city's eclectic skyline. Zara stood outside the building's entrance, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched the strap of her worn messenger bag. The morning air was crisp and clean after the previous night's rain, carrying the mingled scents of food trucks and the nearby Willamette River. She'd spent an hour that morning trying to decide what to wear, finally settling on dark jeans and a fitted black sweater, an attempt to look put together without trying too hard. Now, standing in the shadow of the building where Portland's fashion elite came to transform their visions into reality, she wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. The elevator ride to the 6th floor felt eternal. When the doors finally opened, Zara stepped into a space that took her breath away. Phoenix's studio was a perfect blend of minimalist design and organized chaos. Clean white walls adorned with fabric swatches and sketches, mannequins draped in works in progress, and cutting tables scattered with colorful textiles that seemed to glow in the natural light streaming through the massive windows. "You must be Zara," came a warm voice from across the room. Phoenix approached with an easy smile, and Zara was struck by how different he seemed from the polished perfectionist she'd imagined. He was wearing simple dark jeans and a charcoal Henley, his black hair slightly mussed as if he'd been running his hands through it while working. There was something approachable about him, despite the obvious sophistication of his surroundings. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me," Zara said, hoping her nervousness wasn't too obvious. "I have to admit, I'm not really sure why I'm here." Phoenix gestured toward a seating area near the windows, where 2 modern chairs faced each other across a low table covered with design books and sketches. "Nova called me yesterday and told me what happened with Scarlett. I wanted to talk to you about it." Zara felt her cheeks warm. She had no right to involve you in family drama. This is embarrassing enough without. "Stop right there," Phoenix interrupted gently. "First of all, Nova did exactly what a good friend should do. Second, you have nothing to be embarrassed about. And third, I have some things to say about your sister's comment that might surprise you. They settled into the chairs, and Phoenix leaned forward with his elbows on his knees, his expression serious but kind. Through the windows behind him, Zara could see the Portland Saturday market setting up along the waterfront, vendors arranging their wares under colorful tents. I've been designing for 5 years now, Phoenix began, working with models, actresses, socialites, people who are supposedly the epitome of beauty and style. And you know what I've learned? The most stunning designs don't come from putting beautiful people in beautiful clothes. They come from understanding who someone really is and helping them express that truth. Zara shifted uncomfortably. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but... Let me finish, Phoenix said with a small smile. I've been watching you, Zara. At family dinners, at Scarlett's parties, even just in passing. You move through the world like you're trying to take up as little space as possible, but there's something about you that's magnetic in a way that has nothing to do with conventional prettiness. You're just being nice because you're marrying my sister. Phoenix shook his head. I'm being honest because I'm an artist, and artists notice things. Your sister is beautiful, yes, but her beauty is expected, predictable. Yours is something entirely different. He stood and moved to one of his design tables, returning with a sketchbook filled with drawings Zara recognized immediately. They were all of her. Different angles, different expressions, but unmistakably her face looking back from the pages. When did you draw these? She whispered, touching the edge of one sketch. Over the past few months. I couldn't help myself. There's something about your face that's endlessly interesting to draw. The way your eyes light up when you're talking about something you're passionate about, how you have this habit of tucking your hair behind your ear when you're thinking, the strength in your jaw that you probably don't even realize you have. Zara stared at the sketches, seeing herself through Phoenix's eyes for the first time. In his drawings, she looked confident, mysterious, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with magazine covers or Instagram filters. This is why I wanted to design your dress, Phoenix continued. Not as a favor to Scarlett or as some kind of makeover project, but because I have a vision of who you are that I don't think you've ever seen. I don't understand, Zara said, though something inside her chest was beginning to flutter with possibility. Phoenix moved to a different table and returned with a larger sketch, a dress design unlike anything Zara had ever seen. It wasn't the typical bridesmaid fare of safe pastels and forgettable silhouettes. Instead, it was a deep emerald green with subtle gold threading, structured yet flowing, with details that seemed both timeless and completely modern. This, Phoenix said, placing the sketch in front of her, is what I see when I look at you. Strength and grace, sophistication with just enough edge to keep people guessing. It's not a dress that would work on just anyone. It needs someone with your particular combination of intelligence and hidden fire. Zara traced the lines of the design with her finger, afraid to believe what she was seeing. It's beautiful, but I'm not. I mean, I couldn't pull off something like this. Why not? The question hung in the air between them, and Zara realized she didn't have a good answer. All her life, she'd accepted other people's assessments of who she was and what she was capable of. Scarlett was the pretty one, the outgoing one, the one who belonged in the spotlight. Zara was the smart one, the responsible one, the one who stayed safely in the background. My sister, she began. Is not you, Phoenix finished. And frankly, Scarlett's idea of beauty is limited by her own insecurities. She sees you as competition, Zara, which is why she spent so much time trying to convince you that you're not. The observation hit Zara like a physical blow. She'd never considered that Scarlett might be jealous of her. It seemed impossible when her sister had everything Zara had ever wanted. I need to think about this, Zara said, standing abruptly. Phoenix nodded, closing the sketchbook. Take all the time you need. But Zara, don't make this decision based on what other people expect from you. Make it based on who you want to be. As Zara rode the elevator back down to street level, she caught her reflection in the polished metal doors. For just a moment, instead of seeing the insecure woman who'd walked into the building an hour earlier, she saw the person from Phoenix's sketches. someone with hidden depths and untapped potential. The Portland Saturday market was in full swing when she emerged onto the sidewalk, the air filled with the sounds of street musicians and the mingled aromas of food vendors. Zara found herself walking through the crowd with a different energy, noticing how people's eyes lingered on her face, how a street artist nodded approvingly at her vintage boots, how the barista at the coffee cart complimented her smile. Had these interactions always happened, and she'd simply been too focused on her perceived inadequacies to notice? Her phone buzzed with a text from Nova. How did it go with Phoenix? Instead of responding immediately, Zara found herself in Pioneer Courthouse Square, sitting on one of the brick steps and watching the people pass by. Portland had always been a city that celebrated individuality, where being different was not just accepted but encouraged. Maybe it was time she started living like she actually belonged here. She pulled out her phone and typed back to Nova, "I think I'm ready to stop hiding." Then, before she could second-guess herself, she sent another text, this time to Phoenix. "When can we start on the dress?" His response came almost immediately. "How about now?" Zara looked up at the sky, where the clouds were finally beginning to part, revealing patches of brilliant blue. For the first time in as long as she could remember, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 weeks later, Zara stood in Phoenix's studio for what would be her final fitting, but the woman staring back at her from the three-way mirror was someone she barely recognized. The emerald dress Phoenix had envisioned had come to life in ways that exceeded even his sketches. The fabric seemed to move with her body like water, the gold threading catching the light with every breath, the cut emphasizing curves she'd forgotten she had while somehow making her feel both powerful and graceful. "It's perfect," Nova breathed from behind her, tears actually glimmering in her usually tough friend's eyes. "Zara, you look absolutely stunning." Phoenix circled around her, making tiny adjustments to the drape of the fabric, his artistic eye-catching details invisible to everyone else. "The color brings out the gold flecks in your brown eyes," he murmured, more to himself than to anyone else. "And the cut. I knew it would work with your proportions." But it wasn't just the dress that had transformed Zara over the past 3 weeks. The process of working with Phoenix, of being seen and truly observed by someone who appreciated her unique qualities, had awakened something inside her that had been dormant for years. She'd started wearing clothes that actually fit her body instead of hiding it, had gotten her hair cut in a style that framed her face instead of covering it, and most importantly, had begun to carry herself like someone who belonged in whatever room she entered. "How do you feel?" Phoenix asked, stepping back to admire his work. Zara turned slowly in front of the mirror, watching how the fabric moved, how the woman reflected back at her seemed confident and radiant and completely at ease in her own skin. "I feel like myself," she said finally. "But like a version of myself I never knew existed." The studio door opened, and Scarlett walked in, her usual entrance making energy filling the space immediately. She was wearing workout clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, her blonde hair pulled back in a perfect messy bun that had undoubtedly taken 20 minutes to achieve. "Sorry I'm late, I was at..." She stopped mid-sentence when she saw Zara, her mouth actually falling open in surprise. The silence stretched between the sisters, filled with years of unspoken competition and carefully maintained hierarchy. Zara had always been content to let Scarlett have the spotlight, but standing there in Phoenix's creation, she realized she didn't want to hide anymore. "What do you think?" Zara asked, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. Scarlett circled around her slowly, taking in every detail of the dress and the woman wearing it. Her expression was unreadable, cycling through surprise, confusion, and something that might have been recognition. "You look..." Scarlett paused, seeming to struggle with words. "You look beautiful, Zara. Really beautiful." "Thank you," Zara replied, and for the first time in their relationship, she didn't deflect the compliment or minimize it with self-deprecating humor. Phoenix watched the interaction with interest, his designer's intuition picking up on the subtle shift in dynamics. "I was thinking Zara could still be part of the wedding party," he suggested carefully. "Maybe not as maid of honor, but the dress is too stunning to waste on just the ceremony photos." Scarlett was quiet for a long moment, and Zara could almost see her processing this new version of her sister. the one who no longer seemed content to fade into the background. "Actually," Scarlett said slowly, "I've been thinking about the maid of honor thing. Bethany's great, but she doesn't really know me the way you do, Zara. She doesn't know about the time you stayed up all night helping me write my college application essays, or how you drove 3 hours to bring me soup when I had mono junior year." Zara felt her throat tighten with unexpected emotion. She'd assumed Scarlett had forgotten those moments, dismissing them as just what big sisters were supposed to do. "The truth is," Scarlett continued, her voice quieter now, "I was scared." "Scared of what?" Zara asked. "Of you outshining me." The admission seemed to cost Scarlett something, her usual confident facade cracking slightly. "You're so talented, so smart, so genuinely good at everything you try. I know everyone thinks I'm the pretty one, but you have something I've never had. Substance. Depth. I was afraid that if you really let yourself shine, everyone would see what I've always known, that you're the better person." The words hung in the air between them, 30 years of sisterhood suddenly recontextualized by a moment of brutal honesty. Nova had discreetly moved to the other side of the studio, giving them space for this conversation that was clearly long overdue. "Scarlett," Zara said softly, "I've spent my entire life thinking you were perfect, wishing I could be more like you. And I've spent mine knowing I could never be as genuinely good as you," Scarlett replied. "I guess we've both been pretty stupid." They looked at each other in the mirror, two women who shared genetics and history and a complicated love that had been tangled up in insecurity and misunderstanding for far too long. "So," Scarlett said, a tentative smile playing at the corners of her mouth, "want to be my maid of honor? For real this time?" Zara felt tears prick at her eyes, but they were good tears, the kind that came from finally being seen and accepted for who she really was. "I'd be honored." Phoenix cleared his throat gently. "I hate to interrupt this beautiful moment, but we should probably do a final check on the dress alterations while you're both here." As he made his final adjustments, pinning and tucking with the precision of a surgeon, Zara caught sight of herself in the mirror again. But this time, she wasn't just seeing the external transformation, the dress, the hair, the confident posture. She was seeing the internal shift that had made all the difference. For the first time in her life, she wasn't trying to be anyone else. She wasn't apologizing for taking up space or dimming her own light to make others more comfortable. She was simply, unapologetically, herself. "You know," Nova said, rejoining the group with a grin, "I think this might be the start of a whole new Zara era." Zara laughed, the sound ringing clear and genuine in the bright studio space. "I think you might be right." 2 months later, at Scarlett's wedding in the Rose Garden at the Portland Japanese Garden, Zara stood beside her sister as she exchanged vows with Phoenix. The emerald dress moved like liquid silk in the gentle breeze, and when the photographer asked for family photos, Zara didn't try to hide in the back or angle herself to minimize her presence. Instead, she stood tall and smiled genuinely, her arm around her sister's shoulders, finally understanding that there had always been enough room for both of them to shine. As the reception began and guests mingled among the carefully manicured gardens, several people approached Zara to compliment her dress, her confidence, her radiant energy. But the comment that meant the most came from an unexpected source. Phoenix's grandmother, a tiny woman with sharp eyes and decades of wisdom etched into her gentle face. "You wear that dress like you were born to it," she told Zara, squeezing her hand warmly. "But more importantly, you wear yourself like you finally understand your own worth." Later that evening, as Portland's city lights twinkled below and the last of the wedding guests filtered out into the night, Zara found herself back in her small apartment, carefully hanging the emerald dress in her closet. But she knew the real change wasn't in the dress. It was in the woman who'd worn it. Her phone buzzed with a text from a number she didn't recognize. "Saw your photos from the wedding on Instagram. Would love to discuss having you model for our upcoming campaign. Are you interested in exploring fashion modeling?" Zara stared at the message, then looked at herself in her bedroom mirror, still in her party makeup but back in comfortable jeans and a soft sweater. The woman looking back at her was the same person who'd worn the stunning dress, who'd stood confidently beside her sister, who'd finally stopped apologizing for existing. She typed back, I'd love to hear more. Because the truth was, she was ready for whatever came next. She'd spent too many years hiding her light under a bushel, letting other people define her worth, apologizing for taking up space in a world that needed exactly what she had to offer. The dress had been beautiful, transformative even. But the real magic had happened when she'd finally decided to stop letting anyone else determine who she was allowed to be. And that transformation would last far longer than any dress ever could.